There's a lot of talk right now about the tensions between the right wing and the left wing. And I'd like to put it out there in a way that I don't hardly ever hear it. And that would be, according to Jesus' teachings, what would you do? What do the parables and teachings that he has for us mean? How do they translate into what we would do with our actual deciding who to vote for? Now, before I go any further, I'd like to say I don't think we need to vote for anybody, and I don't think that who we vote for is going to determine who we are. But I want to make it very clear what I do when I try to decide what I'm going to do if I'm going to vote. Because a lot of people, I see them arguing everything on the internet, and they don't ever argue like what I'm going to do right here today. Okay. So, there's corruption and evil. And when I say evil, I believe evil is the inability for us, with our limited perspectives and knowledge, to fathom what God desires fully from his creation. And because of our lack of ability to understand that, many times we miss it. And of course we're going to miss it if we don't care and we're not even trying to find it. But even if we are trying to find out what we should be doing and trying to avoid evil and trying to help the world, even then we can fail because of our limited perspectives. And that's why we need faith, we need some guidance, we need a little bit of value in Christ's teachings. What do they mean? And I don't mean go into your church and having them explain what they mean, or go into another person or relying on what you've come to learn as you were growing up what they mean, because a lot of times those things are self-serving for various entities. The true value of Jesus' teachings are not serving anything but the kingdom of heaven, and in turn what God's will supposedly is for us if we believe that. So therefore, no bad can ever come from Jesus' teachings. So when I use those things to try to summarize what I do in the world and how I see things in the world, I find that right from the jumping off point, I lose a lot of people because to the extent that I believe in it, and they don't, they're going to say, who cares? But there are people out there that at least want to see something refreshing and new, so this is it. All right, so one of the 7 deadly sins is greed, I guess. I'm not Catholic, so we don't study the 7 deadly sins so much. I don't know where that exactly came from, but they're there. So one of the reasons why I'm concerned with the corruption on the right-hand side is because greed compels, it seems to me to compel it. Now, there's greed on both sides, but the reason it compels it on the right-hand side is because it's set up so that a few will use the rest to gain what they, if they're fortunate enough by taking the risk, are worthy supposedly by American values to benefit by. And then the justification is, look what they did to all these other people that wouldn't have been entrepreneurs, and they might not have had anything, and they might have faltered and fell and not even survived. So therefore it's good. But what happens, it can happen, not always, but can, it's a case by case, is that how they conduct themselves and how they define themselves, these upper percentiles, is very connected with money. And we know through Jesus' teachings that he made a point of showing how difficult it is for a man who does have the means of money to find the truth and to enter the kingdom of heaven. And he equated it with a camel getting down on its knees and going through the eye of a needle. And I've heard that's called a hole on the outside of the city. So it's a difficult thing. Can be done, but it's done subserviently, getting down on the knees, awkwardly. You know, it's putting your mind focused to what your task is and not being consumed by what the goodness that you think in this world it brings you to, not be focused on this task of following Jesus' teachings and finding God in the kingdom of heaven. You have to purposefully motivate yourself to do a difficult task and keep yourself on line to do that, like a camel would do it, to get through the eye of a needle. And Jesus said it was as difficult as for a wealthy man that is of means, with all the pleasures of this world right at his beck and call, to keep that focus and to try to do that. And so the guidance that we receive, even though we receive money and we may do good things with those money, you know, Jesus used money. He had a change purse that was kept by one of the money keepers that was with him, and they did use money for things. So the money alone is not evil according to Jesus' teachings. According to Jesus' teachings, the love of money is the root of all evil. The use of money is not evil, because he used money. So one of the things that I would not go towards the right-hand side for is because the system, the way it works with the trickle down and a few having most and them giving and benefiting to all, those few is where really, if you go to the right, where that guidance is coming from. So in the service and potential for love of money is a lot of where that guidance comes from. That, like I say, it doesn't have to be that way. If you're perpetually prayerful and you keep your eyes focused and you're like the camel doing that difficult task, it doesn't have to be that way. But it's difficult. When the man came to Jesus and said, "What must I do to come to you?" And he was told to abandon all those things and just focus on this. That's the necessary act. And the propensity for man, who has the sure thing in front of them, which is all the wealth and the goodness in this world, when they have whatever they could possibly want with these means, the propensity for them to focus on that arduous task is less. And so I don't vote conservative because that higher up tendency trickles down through all things: legislature, the mindset, the legislation of supposed morality for all of us. That trickling down is why I don't vote for the Republicans. It's not that you couldn't vote for the Republicans. If you could get a Republican vote and you did things that way and you could take that out of the mix, then I would be okay with it. But the problem is the propensity to have that in the mix is what I'm concerned with. Now, on the other side, the Democratic side, here you have people getting all kinds of rights. And you're getting, like, for instance, like, as soon as I voted for Obama, I said, oh, shoot, now we're going to get the gay marriage. Okay, first off, I'd like to say there is no such thing as gay marriage. In fact, most people in this world, in my opinion, aren't even married if they are man and woman. Even though they think they are, and they get the license for it, and they get tax breaks and all. They're not married. The only way you could actually be married in the first place is to completely be committed to one another, become one flesh through Jesus' teachings, like Christ set up the church, so he sets up the man and the woman, and this is holy and blessed in front of God, supposedly according to Jesus' teachings, which is what this video is about. So most people aren't married in the first place, so of course I don't believe that a gay or a lesbian or whatever, a transgender, whatever political speech that they're calling themselves, I don't believe it's something that even can be a thing. But because we live in this secular world, and it can be in our laws, well, that's how it does become a thing. Okay? All of these things that they have are just struggles. Like we all have struggles. We all have struggles. They're struggling with those things, and those are surface things that manifest themselves in ways that we see. We know if someone's gay because he says so, and that's what he likes to do, or she likes to do, or whatever. But that is just a manifestation of what they're struggling with. Jesus said that anything that goes into the man does not make him unclean. So the way I interpret this is that there's nothing in the world that is bad or evil in and of itself other than darkness itself, which darkness is us not being able to see the true thing that God would like us to see through Jesus' teachings. But the left-hand side, the problem with this is that because, in my opinion, it's an equal and opposite reaction from the right. Because these people that weren't some of these upper elect, or there wasn't enough trickle down for them, or they came into difficulties, or whatever, I would equate, now I know there's abuses on the left-hand side, just like there's abuses on the right, like those that might guide according to the love of money. There's abuses on the left that might guide according to, what can I get? Selfishness. There's abuses. People that don't actually need, but just are lazy and don't want to work. I'm aware of this. And I don't like that on the left-hand side. So when I'm voting for the left, I'm not voting for that either. But it happens. But I say it's an equal and opposite reaction because one of the reasons why this happens over here on the left-hand side is because the right doesn't really want there to be enough for everyone. They just use the fact that they're giving the work to everyone as a convenience so that they can get what they have. at the top, they don't really care about the people that they're giving the work to in the true heart thing in a lot of cases. And that's why, because they don't really care, there isn't a plethora enough for everyone. And they don't indoctrinate themselves into the systems to get it. It's so difficult for them. And they have such little paltry thing in their dish. They say, why do I even do this? And many of them justify rationally in their minds, I might as well not. I might as well do something else and live in a paltry way. Because this requires all that I give it for nothing, a pittance. And so I say, in a lot of ways, their logic is sound, but their apathy and their laziness is not good. There's many things they could do with all that free time they're getting by opting out of the system. So I don't like that, but it's there. Yes, it is. So what do I like on that side that I do like? I like the fact that there are people there that are genuinely suffering, have genuinely been plagued by their lot in life, where they were born to, the road in life, the circumstances in life, the luck, the fortune, the misfortune. They genuinely need assistance. And the reason why I like that is because, for the same reason I like on the right, if you're generally trying to help the people and they're working towards you and it's a mutual effect, I like that too. The thing I like on the left is, if they're genuinely in need, I equate it with Jesus' teaching of, if you don't give one of my children a glass of water when asked, you would be better off to have a large millstone tied around your neck and thrown into the ocean. Now, this probably didn't have anything to do with politics. I don't know if it did or didn't. But the thing that we can learn from the living word, from the parables that have many meanings, not only about the kingdom of heaven, but also about the way we conduct ourselves in life, I take that as to, golly gee, we don't care about anything about these people, the sanctity of their lives and the value of their lives, just because they didn't make it to this higher end place that people in the world judge you to have made it to. And so they're lower somehow, and you're not going to give or care to them. The way I think is, when you start to serve money and you become this great thing over here, if you go past the boundary of where you don't care, well, that's what unbalanced the scales. That's where it got out of hand. To the extent that you didn't give these little ones that genuinely needed a sip of water. I think that's the line, really, that makes the balance. And you can only know that. I can't judge that. If you're over here and you're using your good works and your money and whatever, and you do care, then disregard everything I'm saying other than an explanation for it. But that's what I like about the left. Okay? There may not be a deadly sin over there about the love of money, but there's what comes out of man can make him impure, not what goes in. Because over here there's all kinds of sexual immoralities and various acts that in and of themselves, they can become what would be evil, because it's not what perhaps God wants through Jesus' teachings for us to do. So they become evil. So to the extent that this is being manifested by the fact that they are in dire straits many times, this is where I kind of blame the right a little bit for this. Because if they had what they needed, or were nurtured to have it, then I would be more feeling like, okay, there was a balanced system. But what happens, I think, a lot of times is the love of the money and the concern for all the things in this world causes that to be the focus. And so to the point that transpires through the ranks. It doesn't mean everybody over here is that way. So again, I caution you not to say that I'm judging. But to the extent that Jesus' teachings talks about how this is so big and so a stumbling block for mankind to fall into all the evils because of the root of the evil is for the love of the money. This is why I'm saying this. This is what I'm reacting to. So when I argue politically, I'm not going to argue about the candidates' merits necessarily. I'm not going to argue about their detriments. I'm not going to argue about how much they're all so wealthy and they don't have to really care, but they're just saying whatever they think they have to gain the power and the notoriety and whatever. I don't know what the candidates do in their personal life. That would be judging. But I do know what the system and what Jesus' teachings kind of shows for both sides. And I vote according to that. If I saw a cleansing of the heart on the right-hand side, that they would care more And universally, you could take that money away from that side, and that wasn't a stumbling block for them. I might tend to think that's a good side. Why? Because if there was enough to flush through, and a system that pulled the ones in that shouldn't be receiving when they can do, I would tend to think that that might be the stronger side. So I think in my heart, in a good world, I might be conservative. But I see man's failure and his tendency, as Jesus' teachings say, to not follow the good heart, but to instead follow the love of money. And so that's why I'm against that. It's in its essence on paper of what it's supposed to do. I don't have a problem with it. It's where the heart of man takes what is here and takes it in and then it puts it out, and what comes out of the man makes him unclean. So I think a lot of the ways they're capable of making that unclean. So that's what it really is. That's what it's all about. Now, there are many other Jesus' teachings that you can use to describe these two sides. But I think that the fact that I'm using Jesus' teachings, just a few of them that I shared today, to show, well, why am I even arguing politically if I really don't care about that internally? Why am I really arguing politically? Because my hope is that we should use all the talents that we have rather than burying them in the ground. And we should take our light out from underneath a bushel and put it on a lampstand so that all can see. My hope is, whether I have to suffer and not gain what I'd like in the political arena and what comes to me on my plate in this physical realm, or whether things go well for me and things are nice, those things are all irrelevant. My purpose in life is to help to shine a light on what God would have us do through Jesus' teachings to be all that we can be as creations. Now, I stumble and fall in those areas too. But I think a lot has to be said for the fact that you put that as what you're going to try to do. Some people don't even put that as what you're going to try to do. Or they do it on Sunday, or this way or that way. A perpetual state of prayer means that every time you're saying a word, anything is coming out of you. Anytime you're talking to somebody about daily operations or political things or arguing on the internet or whatever, counseling your family, people that come to you, whatever, that is all about perpetual prayer. If you're not connected constantly with, well, why are you saying what you're saying? Why is that important? And knowing it comes from this source and why it comes from this source, and continuing to study and letting everything filter through that, then you're not really capable of making this assessment and allowing anybody else to have any access to it. Now, I'm not saying I'm the most capable person in the world to do this, but I can do it, and I do it. So I put it out there. A lot of times I don't talk about the fact that I am putting it out there. The reason I'm talking about this now is because a few people don't know why I'm saying the things I'm saying. I want to make it more clear if they're willing to listen to it and care. But this is always behind it all. This is what's always behind it all. And if it's not for others as well, then, you know, maybe you'll beat me at the argument. Okay? That's fine. If it's a surface argument about the way our world's governed and structured. Maybe when you get into a fact-based issue. Maybe you can really be right. One actually is better than the other. Who knows? I gotta say, I don't know. I don't know which side would be better than the other. I look at how the corruption on each side affects it, and so that to me defines it more. And the state of our world, the state of the world that we're in, how that corruption defines it, how that's important. True, we have gone farther than I would have liked to the left under Obama's care. Even though you paint it and color it with, oh, we're caring for our people and whatnot. Are we really caring for them when we raise them up and say, this is fine, and all our laws say this is fine? I don't know that we really are raising them up and caring for them. I think in a lot of ways we're enabling. And to that extent, I'm not for the left. So anybody that calls me an extreme left person doesn't understand that. We're already too far. And I know it. But with the way our world's changed, I'm wondering if we can even get on the right anymore and even have that be the way we guide things. So, you know, it's that's why I'm saying I'm not really for the left, especially not right now because we took back what we could from what Bush did. But I'm not really for the left because if you go too far in that direction, you have a problem too. So anyway, there's the explanation of political things according to some of Jesus' teaching parables. Now, there's many more parables, and I encourage anyone out there who sees a different take on the living word and Jesus' teachings and parables to please rebuke me and show me where a greater rising towards Jesus' teachings and towards a purity of heart I could still find. Because this is what the Christian brethren are, and I don't even say Christian brethren because we've already gone off into past the Gospels where they started calling it Christian. I believe that the brothers who follow Christ were supposed to do this for one another. But we must be qualified to do this. And in order to be qualified to do this, we must remove our own ills first and see it for what it is. And not have an advantage if we say it's this, or an advantage if we say it's this. Have an advantage only in the service to the next person that we're showing you the advantage is to not fall into those traps. When you can get to that point, you're actually, I believe, helping, even if the help's not received. I always say to my kids, what you want to be is a leader in society, even if you're not perceived as such. I think this is a high thing that we can bring ourselves to through the study of Jesus' teachings. And even if I'm not perceived as much, and even if I receive condemnation into me from others that don't receive, this is not a problem. That's up to God. Okay? I do have to continue to make myself more, have an ability to communicate clearly. And I think I do if you listen to the words. I mean, maybe you're going to be bored if you listen to the whole thing. But you know what? If you really care, and then maybe you're not going to be bored. Furthermore, again, can you find somebody that's just a solid, regular person that takes the time to argue in this particular way? Or I don't even want to say argue, because I'm not for or against. I'm just seeing it in a certain way. And the vote makes it into an argue, I guess, if I want to participate. Can you find another person? Are you the other person? Share. Because what I'm reaching out, I can only reach out as far as I can with my limited perspective. Past the darkness into the light. There may be other people out there that can assist me as a brother. And when you do that, then you receive a reward because I'm gaining from what you've shown me. And we're supposed to do this to one another. Now I'm doing this. So if you're hearing this and you can do it, then you do it too. Because what more can you ask for than just to be a humble servant, wash the feet of your brothers? That's really the highest calling that we can be. And so that's what it is. And that's all for today, folks. I wish you well, and I care about mankind.